breakdown for week 11, and if you're still alive, kudos. And the season is wrapping up, and there can't be many people left in most of the pools out there, even in second chance pools and the like. Last week was a topsy-turvy week with a number of favorites getting knocked off, so if you survived that, again, kudos. Not an easy week to get through. Hopefully you can make it through this week. And let's start off with the games, starting with the Thursday night contest with the Jaguars hosting the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are small underdogs at coming in getting 2.5 points, but I actually do prefer the Titans on the road in this contest. TJ Yeldon is out of a walking boot and expected to play, but he's at less than 100%. Allen Hurns is battling an abdominal injury. And to be quite frank, Marcus Mariota has been the better quarterback on the two teams. And when in doubt, in a close matchup like this, I'm going to go with the better quarterback. Mariota's been the better quarterback than Blake Bortles, so I would take the Titans this week, though that's one of about a half dozen games where you could really flip a coin on it, but I'm taking the Titans in this one. Next up is Washington at Carolina. Carolina is a 7.5-point favorite at home, and this is one of just 3 games in my top plays section of things. Panthers are undefeated. I expect them to remain undefeated. Kirk Cousins has not been as good on the road as he is at home. Struggles against good defenses. Really, he is an average-ish quarterback who's able to take advantage of bad matchups like he did last week. This is not, good matchups against bad pass defenses. This is certainly not a good matchup against a bad pass defense for Cousins. I expect Carolina to win handily, and they are one of, like I said, just 3 teams in my top play section of picks this week. Next up is Oakland at Detroit. Oakland enters as a 2-point favorite, and this is a game that should be fairly close as the odds makers have it. Oakland is on the road, and while Derek Carr's played really well, they weren't able to pick up a win last week against the Vikings, despite the fact that Carr played very well. But the Lions are just spitting and sputtering, and they cannot get out of their own way this year. I will take the road Oakland Raiders to beat Detroit. They're in that tier 2 of selections for me. There's about 5 teams in that group just below the top plays. So if you don't have one of these top teams, the Raiders certainly make for one of my favorite picks despite the small spread. A lot of small spreads this week, but again, when in doubt, go to the better quarterback. And in this case, I'd say it's quite clear that Derek Carr is the better quarterback in this matchup. Sticking with the theme of going with the better quarterback, next game we're going to look at is Dallas on the road, getting 1 point at most at Pinnacle. Pick them at other books, facing the Dolphins. Dolphins have been coming off a win against the Eagles. Were trounced in back-to-back division games before that by the Bills and the Patriots, but did rebound nicely last week, winning a close game in which they knocked Sam Bradford out of the contest. They perform much better with Dan Campbell as their head coach, but Tony Romo's back. This is no longer a Matt Castle-led offense. Darren McFadden has filled the starting running back job quite nicely. He did turn in a clunker last week, but does provide them some balance. And even with Tony Romo shaking off some rust, I like his odds of playing at an above-average clip since he has a guy named Dez Bryant to air the football out to, among others. But Dez can really make up for some miscues, maybe some missed throws. Dez can go get the football. So I will take Dallas as a small underdog, but I do like them this week. Not quite in that tier 2 for me, but they're in that group of about a half dozen games where you can flip a coin. Next up is Indianapolis at Atlanta. Atlanta is a 5.5-point home favorite coming off of the bye, and they're in that tier 2 group of selections for me. I will take the Falcons this week, coming off the bye, facing a Matt Hasselbeck-led Indianapolis Colts. And while Hasselbeck's won 2 games this year, he's still a 40-year-old quarterback who is not a good starting quarterback in his last stint starting back in 2012 with the Titans. So hard to imagine that he's gotten better over the last 3 years while he's gradually gotten older and worked holding the clipboard behind Andrew Luck. But the Falcons have an average defense. They have a strong running game led by Devontae Freeman, and they've got matchup-proof Julio Jones with Matt Ryan getting him the football. That's plenty enough for me to see the Falcons as as a tier 2 strong play, but because they have been inconsistent and they have lost games that they've won, I can't quite put them in that group of the top plays this week. Next up is St. Louis at Baltimore. Baltimore is a 1.5-point home favorite. And here we are with that when in doubt situation again. When in doubt, go to the better quarterback. And in this case, it is no doubt that Joe Flacco is a considerably better quarterback than Case Keenum. Case Keenum getting the start in place of Nick Foles, who was demoted to backup based on poor performance. No injury to report here, just not playing well. Todd Gurley's an electric offensive talent, but not a lot else on that St. Louis offense. Baltimore's defense has been giving through the air, but actually fairly stout on the ground. And even without weapons, Joe Flacco was able to air it out for over 300 yards last week against the Jags. So it is a tough matchup. The Rams' defense is very good, but I simply can't trust Case Keenum on the road against Joe Flacco and the Ravens. I expect the Ravens to win this contest, and they're in that coin flip group. Next up is a game without a line currently. That is the Jets at the Houston Texans. Ryan Fitzpatrick has begun practicing. He should be a go this weekend, but I'm assuming that is the reason we don't have a line just yet until he's officially announced as the starter. Sportsbooks are going to go ahead and hold off on posting the odds there. I would expect the Texans to be small favorites at home, and coming off of a big win against the Bengals where the defense looked really good on the road, I'll go ahead and take the Bengals. Or I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and take the Texans, who just beat the Bengals. They are in that tier 2 group of picks. Not far behind the top plays. That defense is cooking, and I'll take that defense any day against Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is starting to come back to earth. Looked quite lost in the game against the Bills. So I'll take the Houston Texans here, especially since they were able to shut down a far more potent offense of the Bengals last week. Next up is an NFC North division battle between the Green Bay Packers and Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are the hosts. They're 1-point favorites, and this is one of the toughest games of the week to pick, but I will take the host Vikings. I think that by leaning on Adrian Peterson and their stout defense, that should be enough to continue to stifle the tail-spinning Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is elite, make no bones about it, but the passing offense just hasn't been great without Jordy Nelson this year, and they have been able to muster almost no rushing attack all year, even with James Stark starting last week, which was the right move. Eddie Lacy's been terrible all year, still didn't generate much of a rush. Adrian Peterson went off for over 200 yards rushing last week. Green Bay is allowing ranks in the top 10 most giving defenses in terms of rushing yards this year. That's not a good matchup for them. I think Peterson can play keep away and score just enough points for that defense to hold on for a win. Next up is Tampa Bay traveling to Philadelphia, where they will be 5.5-point underdogs against the Mark Sanchez-led Philadelphia Eagles. And laugh all you want at Mark Sanchez's low-light reel, including the butt fumble, but he played quite well in Chip Kelly's offense last year, averaging 277 yards passing per game as a starter. Also threw for a dozen touchdowns. Yes, he did turn the ball over a bit, 9 interceptions as well, but did show some aptitude for learning that offense, for playing at least a respectable level in it. And really, the Eagles' defense is what's carrying them anyway. And they should have little problems stifling a rookie quarterback like Jameis Winston. The Eagles are the toughest cut for my top plays, but they are the top of the tier 2 plays for me. I really like the Eagles quite a bit at home this week to get the job done. Next up, Denver at Chicago. Denver enters as a 1.5-point underdog, led by Brock Osweiler, who's taking over for the injured Peyton Manning. This is a case where I'm actually going to pick against what we perceive to be the better quarterback. Jay Cutler's playing at a high level with Adam Gase this year, and Jeremy Langford's done a great job filling in for Matt Forte. So if Forte is expected to does miss this contest, which he is listed as questionable early in the week, they should be fine with the running game, but or they should find talent at running back. They might not be fine with the running game because the Denver Broncos defense has been great against the run, against the pass. They were put in compromised positions last week because Peyton Manning just could not help himself turning the football over. But with Peyton Manning now on the shelf to rest up and Brock Osweiler in, he certainly can't do any worse than Manning, or at least it's unlikely he'll do worse than Manning. If he is merely competent, that should allow the defense to stay relatively fresh and give Jay Cutler some problems as well as that running game. I'll take the Broncos here because that defense is elite, despite the fact that they did give up some points last week. Again, it's unlikely you're going to see Brock Osweiler toss 4 interceptions in less than 3 full quarters like Peyton Manning did last week. Moving on, Cincinnati is a 5-point underdog on the road against Arizona, and their perfect season came to a close last week with the Texans beating them in the Monday Night Football game in Cincinnati, and I don't look for them to turn it around this week. I certainly wouldn't put it past them to make it a competitive game, but Arizona is clicking on all cylinders. They went into Seattle and hung a big number on the Seahawks defense. It's been actually above average this year, despite the fact that the Seahawks are playing at a under 500 level this year. The Cardinals had no problem going on the road and absolutely whooping tail. This week they're at home. They face a defense that is fairly good, but this offense can't seem to be stopped right now. They've got a running attack. They've got a great passing game. Carson Palmer, I mean, if you want to get into revenge narrative, this is his original team, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to go that route, but I do see him playing at a high level as he has all year. And that Arizona defense has some ball hawks and playmakers that can continue to make the Red Rifle look like the Red Ryder BB gun, as J.J. Watt put it. So I will take the Cardinals this week. They are in my Tier 2 group of plays this week. Next up is Seattle hosting the San Francisco 49ers, led by Blaine Gabbert. And that should tell you all you need to know. 13-point favorites for the Seahawks. They are easily, far and away, the top play of the week. And if you're alive at this point, there's a good chance that you have the Seattle Seahawks available because they are under 500 and they have burned a lot of Survivor pool players. This is the week to use them if you still got them. Huge favorites, one of the biggest favorites of the year, and Blaine Gabbert's going to have no success against the Seattle defense. They are going to make his life hell. Seattle, I like to win this game, and I like them to cover the spread as well. I think this is a complete laugher this week. Next up is Kansas City at San Diego. Kansas City enters as a 3-point road favorite, and I'm going to side with the odds makers here and say that Kansas City wins this game. Phillip Rivers is elite. He is clearly the better quarterback in this matchup, but boy, oh boy, are the cupboards bare for him. Keenan Allen out for the year. Malcolm Floyd likely out for the year after sustaining an injury last week. They've been able to muster no running game with rookie Melvin Gordon or anyone else in that backfield. And Antonio Gates has been good. He's even been playing at a fairly high level while playing nicked up. But point being, he is still dealing with a knee injury. And they are coming off the bye, so he's likely fresher than he has been this year. But the lack of weapons, the defense hasn't been good. I'll take a more balanced Kansas City offense that has some weapons in the passing game, even if Alex Smith is more of a game manager than a dynamic quarterback. And Charcandrick West, who's going to give the San Diego run defense all they can handle, probably more than they could handle, I should say. He turned in a great effort against a very stiff Broncos defense last week, and San Diego, not a very stiff defense at all. So I'll go ahead and take Kansas City there. They're closer to a coin flip pick than the Tier 2 group, but I do like the Chiefs this week. Finally, the Monday Night Football contest this week is Buffalo at New England. Buffalo enters as a 7.5-point underdog against a team that beat them earlier in the season. New England raced out to a big lead early in the season before nearly giving up the game in the fourth quarter, inexplicably. But this time they're at home. Even without their weapons, it's hard not to like the Patriots, especially when they've already seen Tyrod Taylor once. Bill Belichick now has some game film and has seen his own team against the first-year starter, longtime backup with the Ravens, and I think he's going to make things a little bit tougher for Taylor this week than he did earlier in the season, and I do expect New England to win this game. Bills might fall within the spread, but if you're just doing a straight survivor without the points, I think you have to take New England here. They are one of my top plays. They are very tough to beat at home, so New England is it. That's going to wrap things up for this week's Survivor League breakdown. Good luck in your games, and check out fantasyfootballcafe.com for all of your fantasy football needs.